Joe Tessitore and Teddy Atlas as we welcome you to one of our favorite venues, the Little Creek Resort Casino, home to Friday Night Fights, presented by Corona Extra. The event center here, wonderful place with passionate fans in Shelton, Washington. Tonight they're going to see light heavyweights in our main event. Thomas Williams, he's 15-0, 10 knockouts, a recent win in his first scheduled 10-rounder. He's going to move up to main event status against 21-2 Cornelius White. But we're going to waste no time in getting you right to action. Our co-feature set to go, 10 rounds, featherweights. Former titleist Rico Ramos takes on this man, Jonathan Arellano, 26-year-old from Southern California, checks in at 5'6", 125.8. He's 1-2-1 in his last 4 bouts. Facing off with Rico Ramos, a 26-year-old former WBA Super Bantamweight titleist. He would lose that title in his first attempt at a defense. He was KO'd by Guillermo Rigondeaux. That happened in the 6th round. Now Ramos, 3-3 in his last 6. The combined record of his opponents, 101 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw. Mostly a counterpuncher, but let's remind you, he is capable of showing off one-punch power. We take you back to that title shot, July 2011, against Akumi Shimoto, and you see the hook, the one-punch power of Rico Ramos, the 26-year-old in action tonight. So featherweights will get us started. Time to see what these fighters need to do to look like a champ. Brought to you by Just for Men. Teddy.
Well, let's start with the former champion Ramos. Your trainer said you wanted to get inside. Well, prove it. And work the left hook to the body when you get there. And for Arellano, well, when he goes into his shell, you must work. And the body would be a good idea for you to go to also.
Got Bobby Howard as a referee.
You received your instructions from Jeff. You know what I expect. A good, clean fight. We talked about honor. Fight that way. Shake them up and get it on. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, he says, Teddy. Go Hawks, says Bobby Howard here in front of the home crowd with a Super Bowl coming up next weekend.
Yeah, well, he knows where he is, and he's looking to grab a little attention on national television, so he just did.
We are in Shelton, Washington. It's just about an hour drive around the water from Seattle, and everywhere you go, you see Seahawks jerseys in this area. As Friday Night Fights is glad to be back here again. Good, passionate fans here as we get the night started with Arellano and Ramos.
Ramos has lost 2 of his last 3 and 3 of his last 5. Along the way,
Fight clean. Fight out of it, guys. Box out of it.
He lost his confidence. He needs to find it. Tonight would be a good time to find it.
Good opponent to find it against?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, unless you're going down, really down to the barrel and, you know, dropping down the ladder of boxing talent. But I would say so. Arellano also has only 1 win in his last 4 fights, and that win was close, a majority decision. So it should be an interesting match, maybe a chess match. I hope not. If it is, I hope at least aggressive chess. But both these guys' temperaments are to counter. Be careful. Be cautious.
First glimpse of it from Ramos.
Box out.
Ramos has been on the floor in his last 2 fights, Joe. And the reason why I say maybe Arellano is the right opponent when you ask me that question is because Arellano has been on the floor in 3 of his last 4 fights. So a good chance we see someone visit the canvas tonight, but they have maybe the glass in their jaws and maybe the power in their fists to do that. But
push on his neck.
they have the ambition to throw the punches to do it. That's the question.
That moment you referenced with Ramos of getting up off the canvas, that was another come-from-behind one-punch win against the former Puerto Rican Olympian Carlos Velasquez.
No, the reason why, when you ask me the question, is Arellano the right guy for Ramos to get his confidence with? Well, I look at his record, and Arellano had a draw early in his career with an 0-2-1 fighter. So we'll see if Arellano is the right guy for Ramos. Again, it's about temperaments. Everyone says styles and physical talent, you know, skill sets. But to me, it's always about what's inside you, inside your mind, your temperament, your disposition. Both these guys are careful.
Now, Ariano tried to come forward with that right hand behind the jab. There's that lead hook from Rico Ramos, the former titleist. Remember, you can go to Facebook to judge the round all night long. Log on to the Friday Night Fights Facebook page. We got light heavyweights coming up in our main event. Undefeated Thomas Williams Jr. plus plenty from the Friday Night Fights studio. And Todd Grisham. Good evening, Todd.
Good evening, Joe. A huge weekend of the sweet science awaits us, and you know that we will get you fully prepared. But before we look forward, we'll also look back on what was billed as the biggest all-Canadian fight in Canadian history. Jean Pascal's impressive unanimous decision victory over Lucian Bute. Teddy Atlas gives us his opinion on what the result means for both fighters. Plus, his last two fights have been right here on Friday Night Fights. Poland's undefeated heavyweight Artur Szpilka takes a big step up in competition tomorrow. We'll have a preview of his fight. Also another Friday Night Fight alum, Juan Carlos Burgos, in one of the biggest fights of his career. Make sure to be a part of the program. You can reach out to me on Twitter, as well as our Friday Night Fights contributor, longtime Ring Magazine editor Nigel Collins. Don't forget to score tonight's fights using our Facebook app. You can find it on our Friday Night Fights Facebook page. I'll see you in a few minutes, but right now, let's send you back out to round two. Joe, good to have you back.
Nice to be back, Todd. Look forward to hearing what Todd has to say with Teddy and Nigel. He mentions Nigel. By the way, fans, if you're scoring along at home on Facebook, open up another window and go on Twitter and follow Nigel Collins, because when he tweets alongside Friday Night Fights, you get great insight, good perspective, wonderful links. A must follow if you're a boxing fan. Friday Night Fights with Nigel.
What might be a smart, I don't know if it's a follow, but suggestion for Arellano would be, you're going to throw anything, throw it to the body of Ramos. You know, he's been on the floor a couple times in his career from body shots. These are things you need to know. Preparation. You know, you got next week the Super Bowl. Both those teams are going to be scouting, and they've scouted, and they're going to be prepared. They know the tendencies of each other. They don't go in there blind. It should be no different in anything you approach professionally and in this sport. Arellano, if I have that information, his people should have that information. And it should be put in there, into a game plan.
Super Bowl in your backyard, Teddy.
Yes, it is.
Who would have thought that?
Don't hold, guys. Both of you. Box out.
Yes, sir.
And the Seahawk chant continues here at the Little Creek Casino Resort in Shelton, Washington. They did it in the first round. Here they are again. Times are good to be a local fan. They got live boxing here, and they got the Seahawks in the big one.
Well, not much to cheer for in the ring. So why not for the Seahawks?
Watch your heads coming in.
Unfortunately, they're looking like the Seahawks. Very defensive-minded.
That's right. We've seen plenty of this through the years with Ramos, but we've also seen those one single moments of brilliance when he throws that punch right there, the left hook.
And listen, you know, it's the temperament. I'm going to say it again, because the urgency has to be there. It's a crossroads fight, Joe, for both 26-year-olds who want to stop the downward spiral that I described before of their recent path, of what they've been doing. They don't want to continue down that road to becoming irrelevant, or in other words, an opponent.
Good work now by Ramos as he gets Arellano into the corner. Landed two good punches, and there's an uppercut now by Arellano as he tried to turn things around in this last minute of round two.
And he literally turned things around. He switched places. Smart move, got off the ropes, made a little spin, and turned Ramos onto the ropes. And again, you see a little bit of the desperation, the urgency showing itself right now, and it should show itself, because the loser, as I said before, he becomes an opponent. Both these guys can put the other guy down. We've talked about that before.
Good action to close out round number two between our featherweights here. We got light heavyweights coming up in the main event. Cornelius White against the 15-0 Thomas Williams Jr. Through all the years, I always say this to you, when we get a fight like this, a 15-0 guy who's yet to take a real big test up. What do we have in front of us with Thomas Williams Jr.?
Well, with Thomas Williams Jr., first of all, we have it in his blood. I mean, he was grown up, he was brought up to be a fighter. His father was a former heavyweight contender. Matter of fact, a former amateur star in the heavyweights, Thomas Williams Sr. So he has the bloodlines. He understands what it is to be a fighter. And he's a southpaw. He's a lefty. And he's technically solid. And he has a 0 at the end of his record. He doesn't know how to lose. And he's fighting a guy that can punch a little bit raw, a little green around the ears a little bit in Clarence White, but a guy who can bang a little bit with the right hand. And guess what? Right hands have a tendency sometimes of landing against southpaws. So I give an edge to Williams, but interesting.
That's coming up in the main event. Thomas Williams Jr., 15-0, 10 knockouts. He's been active in recent years. He's coming off his first scheduled 10-rounder. And he will be going up against Cornelius White in the main event. Round number 3 here in our co-feature. Good second round we saw between these two.
Break clean. Very good, very good. Watch your heads, guys. Careful. Let go, let go.
You touched on it earlier, Joe. He's hoping he's not in that position again. But Ramos, his last fight, it was going into the L column. Until very late in the fight. Big come from behind win. KO win for Ramos in the 10th round. 4.5 months ago.
Down behind him on the neck. Don't shove down. Don't shove down.
It's the left hook that scored for him then. See if he can draw Ariano in here, and they tie up when he does.
Come on.
You wonder why the pace of Arellano is slow. Again, it's their temperaments, but maybe something else. Maybe something else lingering in those dark corners of the mind. He's never been past 8 rounds. So you always wonder with a guy who's stepping up with somebody more experienced, and he's never been the distance. You wonder if he's, well, if he's pacing himself, or if he's worried about getting into the late rounds, and maybe even subconsciously he's holding back a little.
His last 5 fights have gone the exact scheduled 8. And he's 2-2-1 over the course of those 5.
This is the kind of fight where obviously not a lot of going on. If somebody uses the jab in the center of the ring there, where sometimes there's a stalemate, somebody uses that jab and controls that center of the ring, that somebody can grab rounds.
Neither guy willing to really work out of this situation on the inside, as you see that left arm of Ramos put behind Ariano.
See, those are the 2 things in this kind of fight that's not scintillating. Not a lot to separate guys. Nobody taking command. Who jams on the outside can have the lead, and who makes himself work inside and not tie up on the inside.
Stop!
ESPN Friday Night Fights is presented by Corona Extra, who invites you to find your beach. And in part by Fridays. In here, it's always Friday. That's the Salish Cliffs Golf Course at the Little Creek Casino Resort here in Shelton, Washington. It is magnificent. Waterfront, beautiful mountain views, ranked as the 6th best golf course in the entire state, according to Golf Digest magazine. A few years ago, when it came out, it was listed as one of the top new golf courses in the entire country. They do a magnificent job here, led by their CEO, Michael Starr. Glad he's hosting us again here in Shelton.
Yeah, Michael Starr goes out of his way to have all his people really make us feel very comfortable, very much at home.
And for fans on the East Coast watching us right now, look at this event center and a crowd that's here at 6 in the afternoon local time to show up and watch a fight night like this. Good fans here packing a nice size arena to come out early, 6 o'clock on a Friday night.
Time in. Box.
Ramos he's been cut by head clashes in 2 fights in his career. You can see he falls in with that head once in a while.
Let go of the arm. Let go.
You know, you talked about his best punch, obviously, for Ramos, the one that won him the title, the one that pulled him from behind in his last fight, the left hook. Well, there's a reason for it. You know, he's naturally lefty, but he's fighting out of the orthodox stance. So his power is in that lead hand, the left hook hand. And,
Oh, how about that?
and there it is.
And he just stands and looks over him like prey that's been hunted down as he scores the knockdown.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Lock in the strong. Lock in me. Walk in me. Walk in me.
Would you like to remind us one more time what his
his
best punch is, Teddy?
Great. No, you were
I
standing
think
there.
the point
That's why I
well
suspended the
taken.
count.
But here's the problem. Not a finisher. Not a go-get-your guy after you hurt you.
Look at the
Matter of fact,
temperament.
now he's retreating.
He goes into a counter-punch
right.
stance and disposition for a moment after scoring the knockdown.
And that's exactly why Ramos has lost 3 of his last 5, 2 of his last 3. Because he doesn't have that fire burning.
Let go. Box out of it.
Does have the power in the left
Box out.
hook, but not the fire in him. Not the logs on that fire to really get the blaze going.
More willingness to infight here between these two in round 4. You saw Ariano fire off the uppercut and Ramos return with one of his own.
Now don't forget now, Ramos, he's been on the floor. We talked about it. On the floor his last 2 fights. There's still hope for Arellano. Hope that's being given to him as we speak
Break clean.
by Ramos slowing the pace.
Step back when I say break.
Ramos taking a pit stop when he's in the Indy 500, 20 laps ahead. Go figure.
Touched him with that left hand to the body moments ago. Caught a little bit of the right elbow of Ariano. There's another hook and another knockdown. How about that? 2 for 2.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm good.
Big 4th round for the former titleist.
Deep breath. Hey. Spit. Look, hey, listen.
Take a look at the first knockdown. We know it's a left hook, and there it is, real quick, little bit Cobra-like. Comes right out. Then he gets close. He inches his way to the doorsteps and smashes through the door. Inches his way close. Nothing fancy. Puts his shoulder behind it. Gets that power. And there's a look at the second knockdown. Not much different. Again, gets in there into range, takes a little jump at him. Arellano's vision not real good, and he cooperates. He drops his right hand. Just as that left hook is coming at Arellano, what does he do? He drops his right hand. Why? Well, maybe the brain signal was already there that he was going to throw a right hand. Who knows? You know, we talked about a knockout with Barthélemy and Mendez, and people talked about the referee wasn't in place and that the punches came right after the bell. But the signal was sent already from the brain to Barthélemy's arms to let those punches go. Well, maybe the signal there, even though it was a bad signal, was sent to Arellano. You know, get that right hand, get ready to start throwing it. He starts to drop it, and he does see that Ramos is coming with the left hook. Because how else do you explain the right hand dropping to leave a welcome mat for that left hook by Ramos?
He crashed through the door that that welcome mat led to.
Don't hold, let go. Give yourself some room and box out of it. No backhand.
There he tried to fire off with a lead left hook again. Now tied up on the inside.
Break. You're holding that arm and punching. Don't do that again.
A warning from Bobby Howard of holding onto that arm to Ariano.
get very infrequent jabs.
Box out of it. Box out of it. Let go of the arm. Box
Anybody
out of it.
jabs in this fight,
Break, break, break. I said box
Easy
out of it,
way
guys.
to
Give
get-
yourself some room. Box.
ahead in rounds. And
So infrequent that moments ago when Ramos jabbed with even limited success, it gets your attention.
you're right.
Break, break, break. Come on, guys. Clean it
It
up.
just hasn't been the form of this fight.
And again, it's all about temperament. It's all about what your makeup is, what your psychological makeup is. Ramos
Box out of it.
just
Box
had
out
a
of it.
fight on the floor twice in
Break,
the last round,
break.
but still, a
Oh, back
cautiousness
out.
to
Come on.
him. People wonder why? Because that's what he is.
It's who he's always been. Former WBA super bantamweight titleist Rico Ramos. Light heavyweights will be coming up in our main event. Thomas Williams Jr. is undefeated at 15-0. We will see what he offers up against the 21-win veteran Cornelius White. Of course, we invite you to go to Facebook as he invites him to the canvas. Again, third knockdown of the night, scored by Ramos.
5, 6, 7, 8. Watch him be strong. You want to keep going?
And the same kind of punch, left hook and a little jump with that left hook.
Stop at the bell. Stop.
Take a look at the knockdown, the last round, slow-mo. Look, the right hand again goes away. I mean, a lot of people, and I don't blame you, at home are saying, what is going on? A left hook's coming, and Ramos is just opening the door and welcoming, or Arellano, I should say, welcoming that left hook. Again, little short circuit going on in the mind of Arellano. He's not seeing things well. He's not looking at what he needs to look at, obviously, at Ramos, at the shoulders, at the arm area, at what's coming at him. He's got one thing in mind, while something else is coming.
Box out of it. Box out of
I'm
it.
sure Henry Ramirez, his trainer, feels the same way. And he catches him for a moment here and backs him up. Ramos doesn't look steady now all of a sudden here, with still 2:11 to go in the sixth.
Box out of it, guys.
Big part of that was a little bit of a
Break,
touching
break
with the
clean,
feet.
break clean, break
a little
clean. Don't
tripping
push.
with the feet there.
That was awkward balance he showed. Let's see if he has gathered himself here.
Don't hold, Rico. Let go. Let go. Box out of it, both of you. Step back and box. There you go.
Ramos always gives you a chance to have hope, to come back. Again, because there's a very careful, cautious
Break clean. Break clean.
attitude that
Don't push
Ramos
every time I say break.
works with.
Stay off his neck, Rico. Stay off his neck.
You can make an argument that if Arellano used his jab tonight, Joe, every round except the rounds that he got dropped, he could win just by jabbing. You have a chance to win a round.
No doubt about it. It's there for the
Break,
taking.
break
Simple
clean,
work would
break
get it
clean.
done.
Don't be spinning. I saw that. Don't be spinning.
Guess what? Maybe if you're jabbing, because the jab you think of offensive, you know, it's scoring points, but it's also a defensive tool.
Fight out of it.
If
Fight
you're
out of
using
it. Your
the
hands
jab,
are free.
maybe
Fight
those
out.
left hooks that came, maybe they never
Step
come.
back and box.
Maybe Ramos was kept busy with the jab and not throwing the hook.
Box. Break. Break, break, break.
You know, Adrian Broner, he lost his fight to Maldonado, his first loss. Wasn't busy enough. A lot of fights, a lot of the opposition he was fighting, he was allowed to get away with that. Allowed to pick his spots, pick the pace up when he wanted to.
Break.
But
Break clean.
against Maldonado, he opened the door to be kept defensive, to be jumped on, because of the habit he had formed by not being busy enough. You're not being busy enough, sometimes you allow guys to walk right into that front door. Looks like Arellano now starting to walk into that front door a little bit.
And you tap the bell. Step back and box. There you go.
Take a short break and be right back. End of
Off the
six.
You know, sometimes you don't notice these things during the course of a fight, but we have replay for them. Look at that. A sneaky left hook in between a long left uppercut of Ramos. Arellano threw that left hook.
Thank you.
He got in that front door. That front door that's
Appreciate it,
left
man.
open by Ramos. and he snuck a nice little short left hook in between a wide uppercut of Ramos. There's still hope for Arellano.
Be interesting to see if more of those opportunities arise here as we have 4 rounds to go in our co-feature.
Joe, they're going to arise because of what we've been talking about from the beginning, that Ramos allows you to get back into fights. Yeah, he has power. Yeah, he can put you on the floor. But he doesn't go after you. He doesn't finish you. He doesn't close the show. And because of that, he allows hope. Hope for Arellano. Because of that left hook in the last round, I give the first round of the night to Arellano.
Of course, 4th round had 2 knockdowns in it. You scored it a 10-8 round. 5th round had the 1 left hook at the end of the round, so that's a 10-8 round there. And then the first round going for Arellano. Facebook, we invite you to join in at any point throughout the night. You can go to the Friday Night Fight Facebook page and join in. And you, the viewer at home, has it the same way as Teddy there. 5 rounds to 1 for the former belt holder.
Very good. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. It's flying both ways.
Again, somebody uses the jab when there's that separation.
It's flying both ways.
They grabbed that section of the round, and that was Ramos grabbing it. You know, as much as we're, I don't know if we're impressed, but, you know, we're shouting
box out of it, guys.
the
Box out
result
of
of Ramos jumping in with those left hooks. You know, he landed a few of them tonight and got his man on the floor. But they're dangerous. There's opportunities. As much as there's been an opportunity, obviously, Joe, for him to land, there's opportunities when he jumps in for Arellano to land the right hand.
He had one moments ago.
Catch him coming in.
When he jumped in, could have caught him coming in. He didn't pull the trigger on it. Now a little infighting from Ramos.
You know, we're just looking at it as a good thing. It can be a very bad thing.
No, it's risk reward, the lead hook.
Very risky. But not so risky when you have a guy in front of you just looking at you and dropping his right hand as you come at him. You know, again,
no, that's inviting.
You got to have concentration in there, and you have to have good eyes. You hear me say that sometimes? Guy has good eyes. Mayweather, beautiful eyes, great vision. There's something to be said about that you recognize things. Arellano has not recognized things, but right now he's recognizing that he's being allowed to work by Ramos going into his shot.
Arellano landed 2 right uppercuts and even turned over a right hand around that left guard for a moment here in the final half minute of round 7. So he's putting together a few decent rounds, trying to gather some momentum here in the second half of this fight after he was floored 3 times in the first half of the fight. Let's check in with Bernardo Osuna.
Thank you, Joe. Cornelius White got a late start in boxing, debuting at age 37, and at age 32, he's facing his first southpaw in Thomas Williams Jr. Let's take a look at his fighter facts. He's trained now by former middleweight champion and 1984 Olympic gold medalist Frank Tate. It'll be a 7th fight under Tate, who took over after his first loss to Donovan George in 2011. He rebounded with 5 victories in a row. An upset win over Cuban Olympian Yordenis Despain in 2011 and over veteran Otis Griffin in 2013. And he's coming off of a TKO 3 loss to light heavyweight champion Sergey Kovalev. No shame in losing to the top 175-pounder in the world. He says tonight we're going to see the Beast unleashed. He's going to unleash anger, rage on Thomas Williams Jr. That's our main event tonight.
Thank you, Bernie. That is Cornelius White, 21-2, will be taking on 15-0 Thomas Williams Jr. He said, my job is to take that O. Going up against a young lion, he says. Doesn't want to lose that O. His job is to take it. We'll see if he can take it in the main event. Round number 8 now of our co-feature. Been an interesting one. Ramos and Arellano. Ramos was in complete control. 3 knockdowns scored by the end of the 5th round.
We said early on, the beginning of this fight will be interesting.
Give yourself some room, guys.
And as you said, it has been.
Hold and hit.
For different reasons.
Break. No wrestling. Don't flip around like that.
Interesting to try to figure out why Arellano doesn't see left hooks coming at him. Like that one, although that wasn't an explosive one. Interesting to see how Ramos, even though he's got the lead, will be willing to seemingly give up the lead.
No reason to hold. Box out of it.
Arellano's been allowed to get on the inside. He's there. He needs to keep his hands free, rotate his shoulders a little bit, and work. And not leave his head in the middle where he's susceptible to uppercuts.
Like that right there.
Yes, that uppercut is there for Ramos
Caution on the head. Next time was warning.
because Arellano leaves his head right stationary in the middle instead of getting it on the side. But if I was in the corner, Arellano would say, look, you're getting inside, go to the body of Ramos. Again, I said it early. Ramos has been on the floor a couple of times from body shots.
You can see some swelling on the right side of the face of
Watch your
Arellano,
heads.
obviously
Watch your heads.
the target of those left hands
Box
from
out of it.
Ramos.
You're laying in there.
There he opens up and tried to turn over a left hook of his own.
And he got an opening, he got an opportunity for that left hook because Ramos was throwing a right uppercut, left himself a little open. You throw an uppercut, it's dangerous, unless you dip your shoulder and you don't give up defense. But if you drop your hand a little for the uppercut, somebody could beat you to it. In that case, Arellano looking to beat him with that left hook. You're not supposed to give up defense for offense in this game. And sometimes with certain punches,
Box out of it. You're laying in there.
you do
Step
that,
back
or
and front.
fighters do that. And there's lots of fighters that make a living by taking advantage of that.
Coming to the end of 8. Go over to Facebook, go to the Friday Night Fight page, join in the scoring, folks.
Don't push down. Keep it real clean,
Jonathan
guys.
Arellano, 26-year-old, based out of Southern California. Give him credit for staying the course here after being dropped twice in the 4th and once at the end of the 5th, as we start round number 9 scheduled for 10.
Box out of it. Box out of it. Let go of the arm. There you go. Good job that time, guys. Box, box, box.
Again, no jabs. Well, as I say it, Ramos makes me a liar, and he uses his jab. But the point I'm making is plenty of opportunities to dominate when both guys opposing in front
Stop.
with
Get out
that little
clean.
separation between them.
Stop. Same thing. Break it up clean. There you go. Don't hold the arm. Box out of it.
You're lacking a
Box out
little
of it.
bit of discipline,
Break.
control, or maybe confidence.
Box out of it.
Although Ramos' confidence should have grown as this fight went on. Sometimes you fall in, Joe. Sometimes you throw a punch instead of staying together, instead of staying a little bit in position.
Don't
you do
hold it,
that.
go, let
You
go,
fall
let
in.
go.
And that's lack of confidence,
there
of
you
course,
go.
lack of discipline. You could say lack of balance, technique, but lack of confidence because you're not sure of yourself. So you're more sure of falling in and smothering the other guy than staying in position to do
It's the
something.
easier answer.
Yes. See, again, an easy answer.
Break.
For
Break.
Ramos, if he had more control, more confidence, he would go in there, keep a little separation, and look to do work, not just fall in and hope that he's safe.
Break.
And you see a lot of it this round, what I'm describing from Ramos. And a lot of lost opportunities because of it when he does get inside. Because his mind is on smothering, surviving, just falling in close, not on doing work and finding something when he gets in close. And of course, you could knock Arellano too. He gets inside, he's not moving his hands enough. He's got plenty of opportunities with Ramos looking to smother him where Arellano could take the lead inside.
1 round to go when we return here on Friday Night Fights. Usually when a fighter scores 2 knockdowns in a single round, and it's the 4th round, the analyst doesn't say, you know, he's not much of a finisher, and we could still see a lot of opportunity for the opponent and this go the distance. But then again, you're not the typical analyst. Here we are in the 10th round, and he scored another knockdown after you made that statement, and we're in the 10th round, Teddy.
Yeah, well, you got to know what you're watching, and you got to recognize, you know, not just somebody in trunks and somebody with muscles. And somebody maybe with speed and maybe not with speed. But you got to recognize what they are.
Hey, let's finish Clay. Hey.
And Ramos, well, you can recognize, if you know the sport, you can recognize what Ramos is. And in some ways, what he's not. He's not a fiery guy. He's not a guy with tremendous confidence right now. And therefore, he's not a great finisher.
Don't lay on his neck. Come on.
You got to peek inside, guys. Have X-ray vision a little bit.
You're holding on the far side.
My mentor, Coach D'Amato, he used to say all the time to me that, you know, it's not what's outside with the fight, it's what's inside. And by the way that they go about their business, you can see what's inside.
Don't hold on this side and hit, Jonathan. I saw that.
Gus was a believer in knowing something about a fighter's background before you got involved with him, Joe. You know, so you could maybe have a better chance of
Get out of it.
understanding what they can and can't do in their career, what they could be led to, what they can't be led to. He'd like to know that maybe they had traumatic experiences in their childhood. Maybe those experiences made them more careful, too careful, more cautious, too cautious. Or maybe they had experiences where they had to deal with tremendous pressure, tremendous discipline, tremendous responsibility, and that could make them a candidate to be a tremendous fighter.
Stop! Break! Good sportsmanship, guys. Come on, good sportsmanship.
Final minute here as Arellano has offered up very, very little in a fight where he's obviously trailing by wide margins.
I don't mind you pivoting, but don't rotate around. Let's talk and more fighting.
Ramos is content to just bring it home with a smile on his face.
Yeah, and Arellano really doesn't, at least not on my watch, on our watch, get away with saying, hey, why don't you fight? Because Arellano had plenty of opportunities to fight all night long.
And
Ramos knows he's ahead now, and you can't blame him for playing it safe. Not at this stage.
Amazing how courageous it is when they hear the tap of a 10 count and the light is at the end of a tunnel, isn't it?
Exactly.
All of a sudden you'll punch then. We're going to take a short break. We'll hear from the judges. We will hear from Todd and Teddy with all the news and analysis and get set for the main event. Do not go anywhere. Stay with us. ESPN Friday Night Fights presented by Corona Extra is brought to you by Just for Men Auto Stop, the foolproof way to get rid of gray. We're just about 10 minutes away from Washington's state capital in Olympia. We're here in Shelton, Washington at the Little Creek Casino Resort Event Center. Rico Ramos, Jonathan Arellano was our co-feature in the 4th round. Ramos started with the left hook. He wouldn't end, Teddy. 2 knockdowns scored. Here's the first.
Just walks right in with that left hook and maybe jumps in, and he does jump in. Does Ramos work the first time? Why not do it the second time and maybe the 3rd time? And again, people at home will say, why on earth does Arellano move his right hand away when the left hook's coming? Because he didn't recognize the left hook coming.
He tried to work his way back in, Arellano. Had a decent-looking 6th round, a little bit of effort in the 7th, but in the end he stalled out, and Ramos brought it home. Teddy's scorecard looks this way, 98-90. We highlight the 2 rounds with the knockdowns, the multiple knockdowns in the 4th, the 1 single knockdown in the 5th. Facebook, you the viewer at home, 8 rounds to 2 does not account for what would be 10-8 or 10-7 rounds on Facebook. You see the percentage vote of Ramos over Arellano, 8 rounds to 2. Let's go up to the ring and get the decision for that, the very likable Barry Egan.
Shelton, how about a big round of applause for these two valiant warriors? To the scorecards we go. Judge Tim Wood scores the bout 98-88. Judges Hunter Walton and Alan Krebs score the bout 98-89 for the winner. By unanimous decision, Rico Suavecito Ramos.
Rico's now 23-3, the former belt holder. And Jonathan Arellano, the third loss of his career, he falls to 14-3-2. We've got an undefeated fighter coming up in our main event as Thomas Williams Jr., the light heavyweight, will be taking on Cornelius White. For another preview of that fight, we say hello to Bernardo.
Thank you, Joe. And Thomas Williams Jr. has a fan-friendly style that he honed following his father to the gym at the age of 4. He was a heavyweight fighter, and he's a light heavyweight. Let's take a look at his fighter facts. He stayed quite active, fighting 14 times in the last 3 years. All 10 of his knockouts have come in that span, and his last 2 decisions have been over veterans against Otis Griffin and Yusuf Mack. He's trained by George Peterson, who guided Paul Williams to titles at welterweight and 154 pounds. And after Paul Williams' accident, he wants to be the man who gets Peterson back into elite-level fights. And he feels he's about 3 fights away from a world title shot, and he wants Sergey Kovalev by the end of 2014. He says he's got a taste of being a main event fighter. He got picked up in a limo instead of a big white van at the airport, and he doesn't want to go back to being an undercard fighter.
He's riding in style as Thomas Williams Jr. Will he be feeling that way at the end of tonight, trying to stay unbeaten? That is our main event. It is coming up in just moments. Williams and White. For now, the Friday Night Fight studio and Todd Grisham. Take it away, Todd.
Will do, Joe. Big weekend ahead in boxing, and let's start with Mikey Garcia, who's been about as impressive as almost any other fighter on the planet since becoming a professional. He's 33-0 with 28 knockouts and is on many people's top pound-for-pound list. In fact, there are whispers in the air that Garcia might jump up a few weight classes to face Manny Pacquiao one day. But first things first, he has to keep winning. Tomorrow night, Garcia meets Juan Carlos Burgos, who, despite coming off back-to-back draws, is considered one of the top 130-pounders in the world. The weigh-in was held this afternoon in New York. Burgos, 129 pounds. Garcia, 129.2. Now, despite all the talk about Garcia's future, he knows he cannot afford to look past Burgos tomorrow night.
I expect a very good fight from him. He knows what's at stake. He's very hungry. He's very motivated. He believes that the title that I hold should belong to him for what happened a year ago. And that's why I need to be in the best shape possible, because I got to take on the best Juan Carlos Burgos Saturday night. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight for either one of us. I'm ready to go 12 rounds if it takes 12 rounds to beat him. And I do expect him to be there for a long night because he is a tough, durable opponent.
That fight taking place in the theater at Madison Square Garden. Both fighters are 26 years old. Garcia, of course, with a perfect record. Burgos 31-2, but both those draws could certainly have been victories for the Mexican fighter. We now bring in Teddy Atlas. And Teddy, Mikey Garcia headed for superstardom. As long as he keeps winning, what does he have to do tomorrow night to remain unbeaten?
Oh, his greatest strength, do what he does. He's a boxer, he's a counterpuncher. His greatest strength is he's got a calm demeanor. He's together. He doesn't falter in that kind of way. But Burgos, the problem he could present, he wants to present, is he's got a reach advantage. And if he uses that long jab, he could keep Garcia out of his comfort zone where he can't counter, he can't box. But no problem. Then he'll go in his corner and he'll get a kick in the backside by his brother, and he'll make the adjustment that he has to make, that he's done before in the past. He'll be aggressive. In the end, well, he wins the fight. Garcia wins. Why? Oh, because he's like you. He's just better than the other guy.
I guess it depends on who the other guy is, Teddy, but I appreciate that compliment. Let's talk about the undercard fight tomorrow.
You're better than all the other guys.
Thank you, Teddy. God bless you.
That's simple.
All right, well, let's talk about the unbeaten Artur Szpilka. We've seen him on Friday Night Fights a couple times. He was denied entry into the United States because of some visa issues, but he's here. He promises that he's 100%. You've seen him fight twice. What do you think about it?
I think he gets hit too easy by very ordinary fighters. He gets hurt by very ordinary opponents. He's kind of like a car, a beautiful car that you see in the showroom. And man, oh man, it's polished up. It looks great until you take it out of the showroom and you get on the highway and you ramp it up a little bit and the tranny falls out. He gets hurt with fighters that good fighters should not get hurt with punches that good fighters should not get hurt with.
Well, Mike Malo dropped him twice. What do you think happens? Is Bryant Jennings going to do the same thing?
I think it's going to be interesting because he has heart. He gets up. Jennings, green behind the ears. You know, didn't have many amateur fights, so there's hope for Szpilka in this fight. But Jennings is athletic enough, I think, and he's undefeated like Szpilka, but he has the confidence and the maturity. He's a little bit older. I think that Jennings is just a little better. I don't think he has the defensive flaws that I know Szpilka has. So because of that, and that's enough for me, I'm going with Jennings and with you.
Thank you, Teddy.
No defensive flaws for you. No defensive flaws for you.
I know you like the triple jab. I've been working on it. We'll talk to you a little later on. The IBF Junior welterweight title will be on the line this weekend as well as Lamont Peterson faces Thierry Jean. Peterson was destroyed in his last fight by Lucas Matisse, but it was a non-title fight, so Peterson still technically a champion. The fight will take place in Peterson's hometown at the DC Armory in Washington. 31-year-old Thierry Jean, who is unbeaten but relatively unknown, will be fighting outside of Quebec for only the third time in his career. Jean weighing in at 139 pounds today. Peterson at 139.5. Junior middleweight Alfredo Angulo is a beast inside the ring, but outside it, he's a beauty. At least his heart is. At Tuesday's press conference to kick off his March fight against Canelo Alvarez, Angulo had several inches of his hair chopped off and donated it to the Locks of Love organization that helps kids and teens under 21 who have suffered hair loss from medical conditions. Next week, undefeated Australian prospect Blake Caparello makes his U.S. debut and takes on his toughest opponent yet, the New York veteran Elvir Muriqi. It's a 10-round light heavyweight fight. Caparello 18-0-1 with 6 KOs. Muriqi 40-5 with 24 knockouts. Coming up, Thomas Williams Jr. He's in the main event on national television. Is he ready for the bright lights? We'll find out next as the undefeated heavyweight gets set to square off. Coming up next, it's our main event as Cornelius White takes on Thomas Williams Jr. Plenty of firepower between these two. Only 2 combined losses, 26 knockouts. One of the most influential men in all of boxing, Jose Sulaiman, died last Thursday at the age of 82. Sulaiman was elected president of the WBC in 1975 and ruled with a style all his own, which rubbed many people the wrong way. He did have some positive impact in fighter safety, though. He was one of the driving forces behind the reduction of championship fights from 15 rounds to 12 and also championed the switch of official weigh-ins from the morning of a fight to the day before. But he was known more for his controversies, including his overt favoritism to Mexican fighters, ignoring his own rules, and a ranking system that at many times was laughable. He was born May 30th, 1931 in Mexico. By age 16, he was appointed as junior boxing commissioner. He was elected WBC president in '75 and was inducted into the World Boxing Hall of Fame and International Hall of Fame. When Floyd Mayweather wants to go somewhere, he goes there. Mayweather has returned home after what's been described as a boxing goodwill trip to South Africa. It took 36 years, but I'm here, Mayweather said after touching down. I just don't represent the red, white, and blue. I represent all of humanity. That's a lot of people. Muhammad Ali, perhaps the most famous and well-loved American fighter in Africa, to which Mayweather told the African press, Ali was the greatest, but I'm TBE, the best ever. The South African Sports Ministry hoped that Mayweather's four-city visit would help resuscitate the sport in that country. Mayweather told locals that he doesn't rule out having one of his final fights in Africa. Mayweather also told the press there that he plans to have his final fight at the end of next year. All right, let's send it back out now to Sheldon, Washington, as we get set for our main event here on Friday Night Fights from the light heavyweight division.
It is our main event here on Friday Night Fights, Todd, presented by Corona Extra here in Shelton, Washington at the Little Creek Casino Resort. Light heavyweights, we got Thomas Williams, grew up around the fight game. Dad was a well-traveled and weathered heavyweight. Now it's his turn to see if he can forge ahead and stay unbeaten, putting his 15-0 mark up against the veteran Cornelius White. There's the 32-year-old Cornelius White, 6'2", an inch taller, checked in at 174.4, from Texas. Late to the game as a pro, turned pro at age 25, only 14 amateur fights. He has 5 wins between KO losses. He's knocked out by Don George, then Kovalov just flattened him. And he's trained by the former U.S. gold medalist, former middleweight titleist, Frank Tate. And there's Thomas Williams. We've been talking plenty about the unbeaten southpaw. Natural righty, but his dad switched him up when he was younger, so he fights as a southpaw. His father was a former pro heavyweight, had 28 wins. He's been active, fought 5 times in 2011, 5 times in 2012, 4 times last year, and he's coming off his first scheduled 10-rounder. So let's get you set for White and Williams. Tech-savvy Teddy, the guy who still uses a fax machine over email, has some new toys in the fight plan, brought to you by Corona Extra.
What are you, a fighting version of SpongeBob? Cameras on your head, I can't even turn a computer on. New technology. Oh, it should be great. Bring the fans up close where they could feel the action. Let's give it a look right now. I'm gonna be Williams. White. Williams is a southpaw. I think the right hook's gonna work against the orthodox White. Why? Well, just look for yourself. White, after he throws a jab, he's supposed to cover straight back. He drops it to the hip and then brings it up. So, well, if I'm Williams, I'm gonna tell him, you know, sneak up nice and close, maybe block the jab, or maybe even slip over a little bit, and then bang, jump right in with that right hook before he covers. And if you do that, well, then you can go just watch yourself score a knockout. Fun. All right, now how does White become a star in his own movie? Well, it starts with the right hand. He's fighting the southpaw and Williams. Southpaws get hit with right hands. White has power in the right hand, but more importantly, he's got a very long right hand. And a bad habit Williams has. Williams, I noticed, and it's important that White hopefully notices too, is they like to block the jab, and then he pulls back to get away from the right hand. So he can block the jab, pull back a little bit. But I don't think early in the fight he's gonna understand how long the right hand of White really is. So early on, when he doesn't really have a feel for that distance, look for White, throw the jab, and then when Williams pulls back, bang, step in with that long right hand. He does that, then it's lights, camera, action, knockout. Let's go watch a movie. And can you take that stuff off first?
Let's go watch Iron Man with Michael Starr.
He didn't take it off. I mean, he's got the GoPro cameras. Did Saul get a haircut just to duct tape the GoPro cameras to his head there?
I just hope he takes it off. Takes it off before he goes home to see his beautiful daughter, Alexi, and he doesn't scare her.
He's been wearing them around for 2 days, the GoPro cameras.
174.8 pounds. He is undefeated. 15 wins, no defeats, 10 wins coming by way of knockout. Fighting out of Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen, here is Thomas Top Dog Williams.
Bobby Howard is our referee as they're scheduled for 10.
Gentlemen, you see your instructions in the dressing room. You know what I expect. A good, clean fight. This is the title. Let's fight with honor. Shake them up. 12 fans watching. Go Hawks.
Another mention of Seahawks support for this Super Bowl frenzied crowd here in Shelton, Washington, as the referee puts forth that common chorus you will hear throughout this area. Go Hawks.
You know,
But
White,
I want a clean fight, gentlemen.
his 2 losses, both losses by knockout, so you wonder about the chin, and both those losses were early. First round, third round, so vulnerability early for White. If Williams steps up the gas a little.
There's a left hand from the southpaw that scores a knockdown just 27 seconds into the fight.
7,
As you
8,
said.
walking you strong.
Again, very bad
Punches
habit
in front. Go around
the
back.
tall White has. Watch that left hand. You guys at home, he throws it, look at it, drops down to the hip, and then comes back up, just like we illustrated in the fight plan. Now, we see it.
Watch the belt lines, gentlemen. Watch the
The
belt
question
lines.
is, does Williams see it? If Williams sees it, well, he's gonna knock out White. He's gonna step in with a right hook. Keep an eye, there again, keep an eye on that left hand. After he throws it,
Keep it clean. Don't hold
doesn't
the arm.
travel
Don't hold the
straight
arm.
back the way it's
Break,
supposed
break,
to
break.
for a defensive cover.
Like that.
Drops down, leaves himself exposed. I question the chin. I said it very early of White, but I don't question his heart. Plenty of grit, plenty of moxie.
Straight left, short straight left that time.
Yeah, there's that chin. There's that chin. Oh,
And he scores a knockdown of his own.
there's the power that he does have, that we talked about. He has that power, and he showed it.
2 minutes into the fight, and each man has been down.
He's gutsy, he survived getting hurt, and he has the power. Why does he have the power? Well, look at his body. He's wiry, he's tall, and he's got himself hurt again. Rock'em, sock'em, robot. But again, Williams does have the
And he goes down for a second time. How about this first round? He's flopping like a fish.
7,
Wobbly legs. Will they let it go?
Walking you strong. Walking you strong. Walking you strong.
25 seconds to survive.
Yeah, that's an eternity, that 25 seconds, when you're in this kind of shape.
Show me something. Show me something.
He doesn't look good. 15 seconds. Bent legs.
That's it.
And it's over. TKO victory. Thomas Williams.
Stay right. Just stay right here. Stay right here.
Said there was vulnerability on White's side early. Also said White had some power. He's a tall,
He's got it right
wiry
here.
guy.
We want you to
Wiry
sit down.
guys get leverage. He showed that power. But his chin was overcome by the power of Williams.
Wasn't that fun, folks? 2 knockdowns scored by Williams, sandwiching the knockdown scored by White. And then Williams came in, as did referee Bobby Howard, to call the fight. As Williams stays unbeaten. Teddy, we're going to give you plenty of time to take us through everything. Let's go back and show you the first knockdown.
You see a little bit off balance with his legs there. Left hand, straight left hand. Here's the second knockdown.
I almost stopped him the first
Actually,
time.
this is the knockdown where
told him to
Williams
show me
gets
something.
dropped coming in. Got a little careless, got a little fat with his punches, and he got caught on the chin. And here's the last knockdown. Well, I shouldn't say knockdown. This is a stoppage on his feet. We didn't show you the other knockdown, but that was a stoppage on her feet when the referee had seen enough. White had been on the floor twice.
Bobby Howard told Cornelius White in that final half minute, show me something. Let's go back and show you the third knockdown of the round, the second by Williams. This is after he was floored. Another look
Take
at
another
the second
look, a little
knockdown
better
scored by
look
Williams.
now, a little closer. On top of the head, the right hook, clipping him on top of the head. Williams catching him with that. Again, the power in the right hand, the right hook for the southpaw. Hard punch to see for an orthodox fighter. A punch we thought that White would be vulnerable to. But White, again, his lack of technique. He doesn't have many amateur fights, only 14 amateur fights. Williams, 62 amateur fights. You see White falling in there, flailing a little bit, and left himself open.
Let's go up to Barry for the official particulars.
Shelton, you have just seen the front runner for round of the year. Referee Bobby Howard stepped in to stop the bout. 2 minutes and 49 seconds into round number 1 for the winner by TKO and new NABO light heavyweight champion, Thomas Top Dog Williams.
Now, you heard him say a candidate, early candidate for round of the year. Here's what we're going to do, folks. Keep it real simple for you. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will replay that wildly entertaining first round between Williams and White. Call your friends, tell them to tune in. You'll see it in full length when we return. The 3 knockdowns. Fun first round of our main event we just had here on Friday Night Fights, presented by Corona Extra. Joe Tessitore and Teddy Atlas ringside. Thomas Williams standing by in the ring with Bernardo Osuna. We're going to show you the entire wild first round that included 3 knockdowns and a TKO stoppage. But first, let's go up to the ring where Thomas is standing by with Bernie.
Thank you very much, Joe. Well, Thomas, we said you had a fan-friendly style, and you started off knocking your opponent down, and then you visited the canvas for the first time in your career.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about how exciting that first round was.
Man, it was very exciting. Even though I ended up on the canvas, it was very exciting. Cornelius White, not taking anything away from him, he's a good fighter. You know, we worked on some things in the gym. You know, he caught me with a punch. You know, it happens in boxing. This is my first time being on the canvas, but it's what happens after that when you face adversity. And he put me on the canvas, and I said, you know what? It's time to go to work.
Now, talk to me about what you saw that you were able to exploit.
I seen when he was coming in, he was trying to load up on punches. I said, you know what? Just let your hands go. Step to the side, and you should be able to land anything you want.
You said that you wanted to go out and put on a good show. You did that. How hurt were you?
Oh, I wasn't hurt at all. It was more stunned and probably embarrassed my first time being on the canvas than anything. I wasn't that hurt. He actually surprised. I'm like, oh man, I'm on the canvas. I said, oh man, let me get up, take my time, and go back to the plan me and Mr. Peterson set up.
Now, you said you wanted to fight for a world title at 175 before the end of the year. Does this fight put you closer to that?
I believe it's going to put me closer, you know, because Cornelius White, he fought the WBO world champion, and he took him 3 rounds, you know, and I think by me making a statement, only having 15 fights, stopping him in the first round, I think that makes a big statement.
Well, it'll be limos from now on if you keep doing this, knocking opponents out.
I want to thank my advisor, Al Heyman. I want to tell my daughter, Kalana, baby, watching at home, Daddy's okay. Daddy be home tomorrow.
All right. Well, it reminds us of the man who was supposed to be here tonight. Kendall Holt was supposed to be the headliner. His opponent ended up hurt, and he was pulled off the card. But Kendall Holt had a first round much like this against Ricardo Torres. It just all comes back in the world of boxing. Joe Teddy, back to you.
That's right. Bernardo Javier Molina was that scheduled opponent, but glad we did have Thomas Williams and Cornelius White to offer up such an entertaining first round. Our main event. Right now, we're going to go back and show you the entire round of how this fight played out. Teddy, feel free to join in, gentlemen, as this is how it went down, the 3 knockdowns and then the TKO stoppage of White and Williams.
Thank you. I will join in. First of all, we talked about it early. We said it right away. Well, I said it right away. The White, both his losses by knockout, so your question is chin. Both were early, first round and third round. So you figure that Williams is supposed to have that information. And maybe he looked to jump on him, and there he did. He jumped on him, he closed the gap with the jab from the southpaw position, and he jumped on White early and dropped him. You know, another thing going into this is White, not many amateur fights, only 14, Williams a lot more, 62. So he'd never been in with a southpaw. He never saw punches coming at him from this angle. Well, we talked about the wiriness of White. You know, wiry guys, well, they can usually get leverage and punch a little bit.
Watch the belt lines.
They need a little help sometimes. And I think you're going to see somewhere along here that Williams gives him a little help. Comes in a little reckless. Maybe he sees knockout in his mind. Figures he already dropped the guy, gets a little careless.
Get between, don't hold the arm, don't hold the arm. Break, break, break. Don't hold like that. Box.
Shelton, we have another fight
and again,
right up that will be
White, you can see from a technical standpoint, you know, pretty basic. Covers up to defend. Every once in a while he gets out of position, gives up his height, reaches in a little bit. Now he gets hurt there, and I think this is where Williams gets careless. He figures, okay, I'm going to catch him. Guess what? He got caught coming in a little reckless, a little fat from too far away.
And that's something watching it here in replay, you really notice. That was a great point by you there, because in real time it just simply looked like the guy in control being the aggressor, and it was innocuous, but it wasn't.
No. Knockouts, knockdowns happen for a reason. And now, returning the favor is Williams, catching White, splitting his guard with the left hand, and then catching him with a hook. Again, you saw Williams, you know, White out of position, giving up his height, falling in, and he got caught on top of the head. Top of the head by that right hook. A right hook again that he's never seen in his career before. Never fought a southpaw before. And now Williams knows what to do. Jump on his man. He's got his man hurt. Get in close where he can't use those long arms. And let his hands go and let the referee take care of it from there.
That's it.
First, Bobby Howard Collins is showing me something between his face, looking at his legs. And he came in with the stoppage. So Thomas Williams Jr. goes to 16-0 with 11 knockouts. And let's take you through chronologically the 3 knockdowns in the fight and the TKO. And Teddy, you can explain them all once again to everybody. We'll go back and show you the first knockdown scored by Thomas Williams.
Well, again, Williams is southpaw. White's never seen a southpaw. I think he was off balance there. You know, sometimes southpaws and orthodox fighters get their legs tangled up. I think he was as much off balance as anything with the left hand. But here's the right hook. Well, I should say left hand coming from White. And again, that's because Williams, he had just hurt him. He's coming in reckless, coming in fat, and he gets caught. Now, the last knockdown, off the top of the head. Again, here you see White, not very experienced. He's giving up his height. He's falling in. He's tumbling a little bit. He gets caught on top of the head. And then, well, pretty simple. Williams knows you got a hurt man. Just jump on him. Make the referee do that.
That's how it was in the main event. 1 round, 3 knockdowns, a TKO. Got much more to come on Friday Night Fights, including a visit to the studio right now with Todd Grisham, who just 10 minutes ago, upon seeing that first round, simply tweeted incredible with 11 exclamation points. Todd.
I didn't even know you looked at me on Twitter. Thanks, Joe. First round knockouts mean more FaceTime for me, so I love it. Coming up next week, Blake Capilero, undefeated Australian prospect, makes his U.S. debut and takes on his toughest opponent, Elvir Maricki, a New York veteran in a 10-round light heavyweight fight. Caparello is 18-0-1 with 6 knockouts. Maricki 40-5 with 24 wins by knockout. We now welcome into the Friday Night Fights studio ESPN.com boxing insider Dan Rayfield. Dan, clear the air for us. Has Manny Pacquiao, Timothy Bradley Part 2 been signed yet?
Todd, not yet, but it is imminent that the deal will be done, that they've been working diligently on this for the last several weeks. The fight's going to get done. It's just not signed yet. There've been a lot of things to go over. It's a big fight. Part of the deal that they're trying to finalize with Bradley, that in addition to him getting this fight, this rematch with Pacquiao, is that he will sign a contract extension with Top Rank, the promoter, to go forward with this fight. That obviously takes some doing besides just making the match. So all in good time. You know, it takes a little time to get these major fights done, but this one will get done. It could be done as soon as Saturday. Certainly, I would think by the early part of next week.
Well, it'll be a great fight if and when it does get done. Let's talk about Victor Ortiz. He hasn't been in a boxing ring in 19 months, but he's back next weekend, Super Bowl weekend in New York City. What can you tell us about him and his opponent?
Well, he's fighting Thursday night. The Super Bowl is taking place, of course, in the New York area, New Jersey, right over the river. And so the idea there that the people involved with this, they're putting on other events. The boxing match is part of that sort of push towards a Super Bowl. And so he is coming back after, like you said, a long layoff, a knockout loss where he had a very serious jaw injury, broken jaw, had a long rehab. He's taken on a good opponent, though, Louis Collazo, also a former welterweight title holder, who's from Brooklyn. That's where they're fighting. So Victor's going to his hometown. It's just a fascinating fight, if you ask me, because both guys, they're not in the top 10 at the moment. Victor mainly because he's coming off losses and hasn't been active. Louis hasn't been fighting top-notch opponents. But the winner of the fight is going to get a big fight. Golden Boy promotes both of them. They promote most of the bigger names in the welterweight division, other than the Pacquiao and Bradley guys. And so therefore, the winner of this fight setting himself up for a huge fight.
Speaking of huge fights, it wouldn't get any bigger than a rematch between Froch and Groves. Will it happen, Dan?
Well, that's the interesting question. Carl Froch has 2 super middleweight belts. He defended the title against George Groves, and he scored a 9th-round knockout victory in his last fight, but it was extremely controversial the way that the fight was ended. A lot of people were very upset with that, a very quick stoppage by referee Howard Foster. And so George Groves protested, and today the IBF ruled that Carl Froch had to give him a rematch within 90 days. But Carl Froch may not give him the rematch, could end up dumping the belt, in which case Groves would fight for the vacant title, because the Groves wants to have the fight, but Froch is looking at some other fight. He may end up fighting with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., as long as Jr. wins his fight March 1st. So, but he has to decide, do I take the fight with Groves, which is a huge fight for the UK, 7-figure payday, obviously, or do I take the gamble that Chavez can come through the fight on March 1st and try to make that fight with Top Rank to do a fight in the summertime with where Froch would come to the States and do the fight in Las Vegas. So both fights are big opportunities, big money. You just got to figure out what he wants to do.
Well, he's got options, and it's nice to have options if you're Carl Froch. Big news for us here at ESPN, Saturday, 5 o'clock tomorrow on ESPN3. We will have the Cruiserweight Championship of the World on the line. Marco Hutt taking on Firat Arslan. It's a rematch, Dan. What do you expect to see?
Well, Todd, if it's anything like their first fight, it will be another terrific battle. They fought near the end of 2012. They were supposed to have the rematch this past September. They both had taken interim fights. The rematch was postponed because Marco Hutt suffered an elbow injury. And so now it's been rescheduled. It's taking place on Saturday. I'm very happy that for the boxing fans in the United States have a chance to watch it for free on ESPN3.com. And, it's a great boxing weekend. There's tons of fights, and that's just another great one on there. It gets kind of the day started because it's in the afternoon before the primetime stuff kicks off. And I expect another battle.
Well, Dan, I know you'll be at the Lamont Peterson fight in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. Enjoy that, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks a lot, Todd.
All right, how about this all-Canadian affair? Jean Pascal and Lucien Boutte. Pascal dominated from start to almost finish, winning almost every single one of the first 11 rounds as Boutte proved unwilling to engage. But in the 12th round, Boutte showed some flashes, had Pascal hurt, but could not seal the deal as Jean Pascal wins by a unanimous decision. All right, Teddy Atlas back with us. Teddy, on the undercard, Mike Perez fought, but before we talk about him, let's talk about this fight. It seemed like Pascal did not live up to the hype. What did you see?
Well, with Pascal, I mean, you got to remember, if you go back in his career, back in 2009, Pascal should have been knocked out by a fighter named Andrade. Not a great fighter, but a physical fighter. But that night, the local referee saved him. He extended the count, and he saved him. Then, 3 fights ago, what happens to Pascal? He gets knocked out by Froch. Pascal, you notice what he is, notice what he's not.
Sorry, Teddy, I threw you off. We're talking about Boutte losing. My apologies. I threw you off course.
Oh, okay. Well,
we don't speak Canadian, so we get these names mixed up sometimes.
Yeah, no problem.
Jean Pascal with the win. Tell us what you thought about Boutte.
Well, with Boutte, I'm sorry. with Bute is a fighter, and that's who I meant. And I'm sorry that I went the wrong way. I got led down that road. Bute is a fighter that, he's not a physical fighter. He's a fighter that likes to stay on the outside, long arms, and he likes to counter and box. He should have been knocked out in 2009 by Andre. He got help in Canada by the referee that night. So he didn't get the knockout. The referee really saved him. Then 3 fights ago, he gets knocked out by Froch, a physical fighter. Bute, no physicality. And Froch understood that he could go to him and he could, you know, take away that zone, that distance that he likes to be free. And another thing happened in that fight. He lost his confidence. And Bute acted like a fighter with Pascal that had no confidence. The air was out of the balloon. There was nothing floating him anymore. He was posing more than he was jabbing on the outside, which is what he likes to do, jab and counter. And without the confidence, he wasn't doing anything. And without the physicality, Pascal, more physical, more confident, erratic, not great, but Pascal able to be the boss. And he was the boss.
So what do you think he does if he faces off against Adonis Stevenson next? That's the fight a lot of people are talking about. Does he have a chance against him?
When you say he, you're talking about Bute or Pascal?
Talking about Pascal, the winner of the fight.
Well, Pascal, look, Stevens is one-dimensional, but that dimension is pretty darn good. It's power, he's a southpaw, and he can really bang with the left hand. Pascal shown himself to be durable, erratic, but he can use that erraticness, that awkwardness, I think, to his advantage. He can move a little bit, use the ring a little bit, keep Stevenson off balance. Stevenson, the one thing, that left hand, but he's plodding. He's a little cement-footed. And if he doesn't get a chance to land that big H-bomb, well, then he can be beat. I think Pascal can use his legs, be athletic, keep him off balance, and I think stay away from that H-bomb, and I think Pascal can win the fight.
All right, we hope it happens. Teddy, on the undercard of the Bute-Pascal fight, Mike Perez was fortunate to get a majority draw in his first fight since beating Mago Abdusalamov in a fight which, of course, left Abdusalamov in a coma, tragically ending his career. How much of an effect do you think that had on Perez in the ring Saturday night?
You know, in this business, it's a terrible thing, and we all pray for Abdusalamov, Todd, but there's been fighters that they understand the inherent risk on both sides, for them and for the guy that they're fighting when they get in that ring. And there's been great fighters in the past that have hurt fighters, that have killed fighters, fighters like Max Baer, fighters like Ezra Charles, and it affected them. There's no doubt about it. But then there was maybe the greatest fighter of all time, Sugar Ray Robinson. He killed a fighter in the ring, and Jimmy Doyle, and it didn't affect him. He was the same guy, a vicious guy. He went after you. So you don't know how it affects. But for me, I can tell you that I do not believe Perez was affected by the fight that night. I think that it's a matter of overrating him. Against Abdusalamov, again, terrible tragedy. But as game as he was, he's too easy to hit. And he was getting hit all night. And Nicky Perez had his way all night, so we overrated him. I think a lot of people calling the fight, watching the fight, writing about the fight, they overrated him. He's a durable guy. He's got a good chin, but he's not great. He's not explosive. So we said, oh, wow, what a fighter. But now he fights in Takam. He fights a guy who's harder to hit than Abdusalamov. A guy who's not a southpaw, who's an orthodox fighter. And orthodox fighters, guess what? They got a right hand that can land against southpaws. Southpaw like Perez. And he had to worry about that. He had to be tentative about that. He missed more, and that made him tentative. That made him more careful. So I really don't. I will put my reputation on the line, even though I don't know what's in his mind. I don't know what's in his heart. But from what I saw, from a professional standpoint, Perez was just exposed as not being as good as he looked against Abdusalamov. He was in there with a better fighter, a fighter that was harder to hit.
I know, Teddy, you're still pulling for Abdusalamov. We talked about him right after the new year, that one of your New Year's resolutions was to keep praying and keep fighting for Abdusalamov to kick out. So I know our thoughts and prayers are still with him. Thanks for your time, Teddy. All right, when we return, more Friday night fights action. We've got a live bout headed your way next from Washington.
foolproof punch of the night is brought to you by Just for Men. It is Rico Ramos in the 5th round, the 3rd knockdown he scored against Jonathan Arellano. The left hook was working. Ramos would go on to win a 10-round unanimous decision, 23rd win of his career. Of course, we also had fireworks in our main event. You can go to ESPN.com to see highlights of that or watch a full replay of Cornelius White and Thomas Williams on Watch ESPN. For now, 4 rounds between Marcelo Gallardo and Juan Funes. Featherweights, young featherweights meeting up here. There's Gallardo, 3-0. He's 5'4", 126, 24-year-old from nearby Auburn, Washington. Juan Funes is 20 years old. He's from Van Nuys, California, 3-0 with a knockout. Paul Fields is the referee for the 4 rounds.
4 rounds in boxing. Don't punch behind the head. Keep your punches up. Keep it clean. Good luck to both.
Ready to go?
Boy, I feel like from that last segment on camera with Todd, I feel like a fighter that needs an 8 count.
Well, you'll settle in.
I was discombobulated. I was stunned. I was hurt.
I think the point came across clear as what you thought of Butte and Pascal.
It took me a little while to get my bearings. You know, I'm glad you didn't stop the fight. Thank you.
I
know you were thinking about it. I saw the towel. I saw the towel you had.
Show me something, Teddy. Show me something.
I just barely pulled through that.
Talk about Gallardo and Funes before I need you to throw the towel on me here.
Gallardo, all his fights have been here in the state of Washington. He's 4 years older, a little bit bigger, turned pro 131. Last fight 128, while Funes turned pro 124. And his heaviest was 126. Tonight he tops that.
Gallardo's targeting the body early on here. He gives up 6 inches. Funes 5'10", Gallardo 5'4".
All the fights for Funes in California. Interesting match. 2 young 3-0 guys fighting each other. You know, early stage in their careers. I'd have to favor Funes because he's the promoted fighter, Joe, and I have common sense. I know the business. They're not putting him in on their card to lose. So you know that at least whatever their judgment is, the promoters of Funes, they looked at Gallardo and they looked him over well before taking him as an opponent. They saw something they liked.
Dan Goossen, the promoter, brother Joe Goossen, trains Funes with Ricky, his uncle.
Well, right now you can see Funes not using his height.
Not at all.
And he just got hurt a little bit by the wide punching, but the very earnest and game Gallardo. Interesting fight now. Really, I mean, not just because both guys engaging, but because of the style matchup. Both guys, you know, a lot on the line early in their career, both undefeated, but Funes, again, is southpaw and not using his height. And going to back. And he's paying a price for fighting short.
Bruising around his left eye, takes a knee here.
6, 7, 8. Okay. Want to go on?
Takes 8 precious seconds to gather himself.
You know, it's all about location. Location, geography. Funes, the taller guy, should be fighting on the outside. He fights on the inside, in the trenches with Gallardo. The wide guy, the wide puncher, the shorter guy, and he pays the price for it. Plenty of opportunities, though, for Funes to punch in between those wide punches, Joe, of Gallardo.
The feisty Marcelo Gallardo scores a knockdown against the well-connected, as you noted, Juan Funes.
You can't do that, stay there. We're doing really good boxing. Don't fuck up like that no more. Go back to your box, take a deep breath. Okay, you recover. You're hurting right now.
He's in too close, Funes. He gets caught with the uppercut, then the right hand. And then, for good measure, as he pulls straight back, a left hand by Gallardo. Let's take another look. Left hand follows him with a looping, actually right hand first, then a looping left hand, and down goes Funes. Again, geography.
Okay?
Funes inside when he should be outside.
Okay? Don't stay there and receive those punches. You're
Here's
a better
Uncle
boxer
Ricky,
than that. Okay?
veteran Joe Goosen from Southern California. And their 5'10", 20-year-old who came in with a matching 3-0 mark, as is his opponent, Marcelo Gallardo. And of course, when you're fighting a 4-rounder, you go down in the first, you got to dig yourself out of a hole, and not a lot of time to do so.
Very good point. You're right. You're in an 8-rounder. You're in even a 6-rounder. But obviously, the longer you are in a fight, you get dropped. You got time to make up for it. Not much time to make up for it. And you would think a little bit of anxiousness now in the corner and in the mind of the young 20-year-old Funes. He knows he has to make up some ground. So what does he do? Does he do it the way he should on the outside, counter-punching, using the jab, trying to set up that southpaw right hook, trying to catch Gallardo coming in? Yeah, he's doing it that way so far. So that tells me something about him. That tells me that he thinks under pressure. There's something to this kid. You know, he's not panicking and just walking forward. He's still understanding what he needs to do. What he didn't do the first round, he understands the mistake of that. And Joe, there's going to be lots of chances for Funes, I think, to get back in this fight with a straight left hand or a right hook to punch in between those wide shots of Gallardo, and he just missed there.
He just missed there, Teddy. He tried to time it.
See, sometimes you got to create offense, but sometimes your opponent creates it for you. Gallardo creates offensive opportunities for you by coming in a little wide.
Right uppercut by Funes there on that last exchange. And then he goes to the body.
Little swelling under the left eye of Funes.
It started up at the end of the first round. You can see the red mark, and now it is grown more prominent here halfway through round 2.
Again, still under distress here, Funes. You know, he's been dropped, undefeated kid coming into the fight, but still trying to get himself together and understanding I need to be on the outside and do work on the outside, not in the trenches, not with Gallardo. You know, you gotta like a kid like Gallardo. You know, he comes in here, nothing fancy, just winging punches, walking right in with the fellow undefeated fighter. And he was asked before the fight, what's your strategy? You know what he said, Joe? Press the action and beat him up. That's pretty simple. Pretty simple strategy.
You know, when he's not boxing, he started boxing at 18, he's 24. He has spent 3 years as a roofer working on the side. And this is a hard guy right here, a laborer, a tough guy.
And you don't think of 4 years being a difference. He's 24, Funes is 20, but you're right, he's showing that maturity advantage Gallardo is.
He's working for a living. He's working on the inside here as we come to the end of round number 2. ESPN Friday Night Fights is presented by Corona Extra, who invites you to find your beach. So throughout the night, our fighters on this card have been finding the headshots. Rico Ramos and Thomas Williams Jr. both scoring victories. Ramos scored 3 knockdowns on his way to unanimous decision. Thomas Williams Jr. scored a first-round TKO in which he scored 2 knockdowns against Cornelius White and was down himself. And here in this fight, as we take a break here, as they tend to the corner and a mouthpiece, Marcelo Gallardo, that fighter right there, the 5'4", 24-year-old who's 3-0, scored a knockdown in the first round against the 20-year-old 3-0 Juan Funes.
And at least on my scorecard, the undefeated 20-year-old Funes is going to need at least a knockdown if he wants to have a chance to stay undefeated. Again, you brought up a good point. Only a 4-round fight. You know, you get dropped in a 4-round fight, you got a lot of ground to catch up in a short amount of time. And then if you lose the next round, you really have a lot of ground. And on my scorecard, Funes lost the last round too.
Good exchange here as Funes is taking it right to Gallardo with wide swinging punches and digging to the body, and Gallardo's battling back.
Yeah, I think obviously that Funes was told the position he's in, a position that I have him in by his corner. And now he's forgetting about height, all the things I talked about that would have given him an edge early on. And he's just going after it because it's desperation time, and he needs to go after it.
Quick reminder, tomorrow at 5 o'clock on ESPN3, exclusive coverage in the U.S. coming to you free from us on ESPN3. The WBO Cruiserweight title, Marco Huck, Firat Arslan, the rematch. Huck won a unanimous decision in their first meeting back in November. Should be a good one. It's tomorrow on ESPN3 at 5 Eastern.
So the advantage is seeing show itself a little bit now. Of course, it's coupled with the desperation of Funes, but Gallardo, not many amateur fights. Had a real small amateur career, only 16 fights. Funes, almost 70 amateur fights, and it's starting to show a little. But that game is of Gallardo. Yeah, that game is of Gallardo. Can't discount the size of her heart in a fighter. You know that old saying, it's not the size of the man in a fight, it's the size of the fight in the man. There's plenty of fight in the shorter Gallardo.
In the absence of a jab from Funes.
Yeah, if you're the taller guy, as Funes is, it's hard to keep that distance and really be the taller guy if you don't use that jab. There's always hope for Gallardo with that right hand against southpaws. Those right hands land. Gallardo's, as you said earlier, has landed tonight with the southpaw Funes. Funes has to take chances here. He looks winded, his mouth's open. You know, spent a lot of petrol early in this round, but he's got to go to the reserve tank.
Well, 3 minutes to solve the problem. Remember, he was floored in the first round. Reminder, next Friday night, Australia's Blake Caparello, who's 18-0-1, will be taking on Elvir Maricki. 40-win, longtime veteran Elvir Maricki, who, Teddy, I think I broadcasted an Elvir Maricki fight maybe about 10 years ago, 11 years ago with you in the corner. You were his trainer for many years.
Yes, that's right.
I think it was a Tuesday night fights back then with our late friend Scott Ledoux, may rest in peace, our good friend.
Well, again, Funes made a mistake early of giving up his height, going into the trenches with Gallardo. Guess what? He's going to have to make that mistake again if he's going to win this fight and make the mistake right. He's going to have to go in the trenches, even though he's the taller guy now, being behind in this fight. Haven't been on the floor. He's going to have to go in close and win the fight, probably in the wrong place. In close.
Both 3-0 for now. 2 minutes to decide who moves forward here as Gallardo got off to such a good start. Teddy's card highlights that knockdown in the first round, 29-27, Gallardo. Facebook has it 2 rounds to 1.
Again, you see the opportunities. Funes doing a good job, but he should have done his job early, I think. Controlling the outside, looking for counter punches, making Gallardo, the shorter man, take chances, and looking to nail him as he takes those chances. But being behind in the fight, maybe Funes has to do more than that now. Maybe he has to go take chances, walk in, and if not look for the knockout, at least look to get Gallardo on the floor. Again, normally I wouldn't argue with this. Standing on the outside, the taller man, looking to take what Gallardo gives him, and he's getting it. He's getting counter opportunities, but he might have to get a little more than that. And Gallardo doing what he does. Coming in there, walking forward, throwing punches.
Spirited effort here. Final half minute. And to your point earlier, the taller, younger fighter, the promoter's guy. But Gallardo, the hungry guy. Crowd really enjoyed this one. Young featherweights with 4 rounds of action. A quick break, and then we will hear from the judges when we return to Friday Night Fights. Joe and Teddy back with you in Shelton, Washington. Marcelo Gallardo scored a knockdown in the first round. And we said, hey, in a 4-round fight, that means the 3-0 Funes would have a lot to overcome. You saw Teddy's scorecard, and you see that the Facebook viewers agree that Gallardo won it. Let's go up.
And let's not forget, of course, that, as we mentioned earlier, Funes is the promoter's fighter.
Yes, he is. Thus, this could be intriguing when we send it up to the ring to Barry Egan.
Shelton, how about a big round of applause for these 2 valiant warriors? To the scorecards we go. All 3 judges are in agreement, scoring the bout 38 to 37.
Well, you know what that means.
For the winner, by unanimous decision, out of Van Nuys, California,
And you hear the boos. Because 38-37 is the only way you can add that up. When you got a 10-8 the first way, you had to give all the next 3 to Funes, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, to arrive at that after Gallardo went 10-8 with the knockdown in the first round, and then was continued to be spirited and doing his job on the inside and taking the fight right to Funes.
You know, a lot of times when you see injustices in this world, especially like in the political world, people will say, just follow the money if you want the answer. Well, in boxing, just follow the promoter.
So Funes moves his mark to 4-0. Gallardo should be happy about his effort, even though he's now 3-1.
Todd Grisham here in studio. According to our Dan Rayfield, welterweight titleist Marco Maidana and Adrian Broner are still headed towards a rematch, but it's not going to be in April, as Golden Boy had hoped. Maidana's camp told ESPN.com that Maidana's girlfriend is due to have their daughter in mid-March, and Maidana wants to be around for the birth and not in training camp. The fight is expected to take place in early summer. Next week, we're back with Blake Caparello from Australia taking on Elvir Maricki, a New York veteran, in a 10-round light heavyweight fight. For Joe Tessitore, Teddy Atlas, Bernardo Osuna, and our entire Friday Night Fights crew, I'm Todd Grisham. We'll see you next week in West Orange, New Jersey.